All right, welcome back to another attempt to speak about unspeakable things. I'm going to talk about disillusionment today because this is my own experience that I'm just sharing on the path of life, honestly. Forget about spirituality, forget about medicine. Disillusionment, losing our projections of what reality is, losing our beliefs and our sacred cows and those things that either society or our parents or ourselves tell us are the way things are, or the way things should be, or how things ought to be. When those dissolve, when they disengage, when they fall away, it can be some of the most painful, uncomfortable type of experience that humans can have. And yet they are disillusionment, losing these illusions is absolutely a precious, sacred gateway to freedom. Freedom for things to be actually as they are, to be seen as they are, instead of as yet another fabrication and projection of our minds. So for me, disillusionment showed up on these different threads that unfold in life, mainly the real life thread in medicine. When I was working at Stanford as a hospital doctor for a decade, I started out very idealistic. I was very conditioned in the medical model that you do a bunch of stuff to people and they get better. And, you put all the drugs in the water, the statin and the beta blocker and the calcium channel blocker and the whatever, and that'll keep people happy, healthy, alive longer. You do procedures to people, you do all the things that the medical model says, and that creates health and happiness. And of course, that illusion, that projection, that conceptual realm, that particular type of conditioning, when it starts to crack, it starts as just doubt, like, I don't know. I keep seeing these same people coming back to the hospital again and again and again. We do all the things to them and they go out. They do all the things in life. They eat the food. They don't exercise. They smoke, whatever it is. They're under stress. There's violence. There's all this societal stuff. There's intergenerational trauma. There's psychological stuff, psychiatric stuff, conditioning. And then they come back worse than ever. And we do the same thing to them. And then they come back. It's like a hamster wheel, just this bounce back thing. In fact, I did a song about it called Readmission, about bounce, 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 bounce back. As a doctor who specializes in hospital care, this started to itch at me, like Morpheus says in The Matrix, like a splinter in your mind driving you crazy. Why is this? And as that illusion of control that somehow we can control these patients' health in a way when there's all these other factors that are out of any control going on, when that illusion starts to crack, it can be very humbling, and getting humbled is very painful for human ego. So for me, it was more like, And so how did I respond? I started getting bitter, cynical, burned out. I started reacting in these very reactive ways, like reducing patients to problem lists, trying to get them out of the hospital quickly, making them someone else's problem, like that. I went through that phase. And then there was the phase of, wait, now I feel terrible. Now I feel like I'm this shameful creature. I went into medicine to help people and I can't help anybody. And then this feeling of like, well, maybe I have to just quit. Like, I don't see how I can do this until I retire. And that aspect of moral injury, which we've talked about, where you're disillusioned that you have these moral reasons for doing something, like you want to help people, that care versus harm morality. You want to give people autonomy. So that's a particular moral taste. But when you give them autonomy, they go out and smoke and eat crap. And then they show up back in the emergency department because they ate too much salt and they have congestive heart failure. And then you're like, wait. And this conflicts with what you feel is right. But then when you do things, you find that you're compelled by a system to do things that actually cause harm. Or worse, are schizophrenic. Like they help some aspect, like help you maybe, but then hurt the patient. Or if you help the patient, you hurt your ability to bill and make money and support your family. Or if you try to help the patient, you hurt the administration's sort of construct of how to make a profit, create, increase throughput through the hospital, prevent bounce back, all this other stuff. And it starts to break you. And so these illusions start to fall that like this is a possibility, that you can actually balance these things. And that kind of disillusionment in the life thread, in the real world thread, gross reality, was a gate for me, because it broke me out of a conditioned way of thinking, a set of beliefs that had to fall. And a lot of these beliefs were parental, they were societal, they were systemic, like medicine teaches you this stuff from the beginning, the administration, government, your own internal conditioning, and then at odds with your moral taste buds, like, no, this isn't right. And then your own self-shame and sense of brokenness that drove you to go into healthcare in the first place to try to outrun this demon of I'll never be enough. Now that's showing up, and it's like, okay. So that first gate of disillusionment was a gross reality gate. It had nothing to do with spirituality or awakening or our true nature or no self or emptiness or energy or one compassionate isness. None of that. It was very simple. And that was enough for me to kind of crack open this belief structure of who and what I was, what I could do in the world, my own sense of control, my own sense of identity, where I was going, where I'd been, all came into question. And it was excruciatingly painful. And it led to me quitting my job, moving to Las Vegas. And that's when the next disillusionment happened. The illusion that I was this Zubin with this life story that was in control of past and future and existed in time. And that disillusionment was instant. It was like pop, all of a sudden, oh, and we call that, one word for it is awakening, where you suddenly realize, oh, I was never this illusory self. That was an appearance in what I am. And what I am is the sense of I am, presence itself, consciousness. That's the first sort of disillusionment on a spiritual, and I'm starting to hate that word, but spiritual unfolding, a spiritual path. And so that disillusionment is another gate. And then suddenly there's this open sense of, oh, I thought I was this, but I'm actually this vast awakeness. Some people wake up into, I'm nothing, I'm no thing, I'm no self. There's nothing here. And that's another degree of like illusion that drops and freedom that is on the other side of that. But then it's funny, illusion has no boundaries. It has no edges. It has no limits to what our minds can actually create in terms of more illusion, more conditioning, more belief. So when that first awakening happened for me, the next thing that happened is I tried to make sense of it, because the mind comes back, because it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe there's new conditioning, like the mind now takes on a new set of beliefs. I am consciousness. I am presence. I am the awakened one. And now the standard ego that thought it was a person in space and time that had these beliefs about reality and its own morality now gives way to a new spiritual ego, spiritual identity of the awakened one, who now is going to read everything about meditation, is going to go to meditation retreats, is going to follow these people on YouTube, is going to talk about this, teach other people, wake them up. A whole different level of illusion and delusion, not seeing things as they are. And when that starts to get challenged, it's especially painful, because the spiritual ego, the spiritual illusion, is one that is venerated in many ways, even more so than the societal illusion of I'm the good doctor who is helping people. No, you're not. Look what's actually happening. This whole thing is out of your control. It's just a systemic causes and conditions well beyond your control. And actually what you're doing actually is causing harm in some ways. You're putting people on medicines that's causing them to fall at home, because you're treating a number, you're treating their blood pressure. Now they're going and falling, having a subdural hematoma showing up. Now they're in a nursing home. Next thing you know, they've broken their hip. Next thing you know, they've died of pneumonia. So somehow, directly and indirectly, you were responsible through this system for their death, but not really, because this is, again, part of this broader expression. But that disillusionment that, oh God, I'm actually causing harm when I'm trying to do good, and the moral injury of that, then you wake up, then there's this like, oh, okay, this huge relief. Well, okay, I was never in charge of that because there was never an I. So now, but there is this I, there's this sense of I am, I'm this bigger consciousness presence. And that can initially be this huge relief and this outpouring of emotion and all this repressed stuff coming up. But now you have the spiritual ego, like, okay, now I'm this. And I believe in this teacher and that teacher, and this teacher saying, you know, you can do these things to practice and do this, and this teacher saying this. And so you start following these teachers, gurus, whatever you want to call them. And they're pointing you to very important stuff. And maybe you go do these practices that are seemingly quite helpful and can be quite helpful until they become part of another set of beliefs, another structure of ego, another structure of identity, the one who awakens, the one who does the practices, the one who's improving themselves, improving this project of me, this illusion of me. Now we're trying to improve it. And so when that starts to fall away, when we get it disillusioned there, you might start speaking in the way that I've spoken recently, which is like, all these gurus are bullshit. You start to realize, wait, they're all showing an aspect of reality, but then they're totally fucked up in these other ways, or they're not seeing this, or something doesn't feel right. Or you find out that, you know, they're behaving in these kooky waves or whatever it is. And this is a tale as old as time in the spirituality unfolding. And that kind of disillusionment can be very painful, and because it often comes with another type of disillusionment in parallel in this sort of psyche thread, this conditioning thread, the unconscious thread of our own conditioning, where we start to look into our own behavior, our own unconscious, and make it conscious. And we see, wait, all this time I thought I was in charge of my own life, my own actions, my own behaviors. And in fact, I've been a puppet dancing on the strings of causes and conditions that are totally universal. So everything from my ancestry, the fact that I'm a mammal, the fact that I was born a male, the fact that I was born to these particular parents who had these particular beliefs that were passed on to them and conditioned through school and society, genetics, tendencies, personality, traumas, all of that is causing all my behavior, not some of my behavior, all of it. Even the sense of free will that I have is the causes and conditions that lead to this illusion that I just made a decision. And when that disillusionment happens, for me, actually, it was a kind of second awakening. It was another opening, because it was funny. What actually might have triggered it for me was somebody turned me on to the Enneagram, this system of like personality analysis. And who knows, it's another map, right? It's another thing that attempts to describe something that's not describable really in words, which is the territory of humanness. This territory of this unknown whatness. And so for me, it turns out I did the little test, I read the book, Wisdom of the Enneagram, and I'm like, oh my God, the Enneagram 6, this loyalist, this one who's like duty bound and always looking for beliefs in others, doesn't trust their own self, is trying to find beliefs and then will champion them and fight for the ones they love and so on, but are always fearful of the future, always fearful of instability and so on, seeking security. Read that chapter, I was like, it's like they read my mind. It's like, where did this even come from? And the aspect of the Enneagram 7, the sort of hedonist looking for experience that I also have a large aspect of, was like, oh my God, how do these people know me so well? They know me better than I know myself. And I started to realize, because this is patterning. This is an operating system of human personality that we're born with, and that is further encouraged by causes and conditions in our life. We never chose this. We never chose to be this way, and we couldn't. And I realized, oh my God, I am this automatic set of causes and conditions playing itself out. So who am I? Who am I really? All this sense of shame and brokenness, and I could be better, and I could do this. And like, all that's true. Like, you can actually, the conditioning can change. That's all fine. But what's actually changing? Just causes and conditions. So that was a huge, like, what? Is there even a me here at all? Like, this I am consciousness didn't make sense, because consciousness was another arising cause and condition. So what is going on? And that's where that sort of self-forgiveness of this non-existent self happens, and the disillusionment that I was ever in charge, that I ever was in control. And that profound surrender into the helplessness of like, what? And then realizing, whoa, this whole thing is a mysterious orchestration of everything by no one for no one. There's no other way really I can say it, and that doesn't make sense. It's another map trying to use words, and words are designed for subject and object and self and other, and so they don't work, but they can point. That profound disillusionment. So then you realize the teachers don't know anything. You don't know anything. Any kind of conceptual understanding of reality is provisional and projection, and in a sense, illusion. And all those illusions can fall. And that is the profound disillusionment that drops you right back here and now in a way that all the spirituality itself was seen as a projection, as another appearance, another mind construction. And then what? Well, then there's nothing left, is there? It's a kind of free fall. But that free fall seemingly has nowhere to go but here. You're falling and falling and falling nowhere but here, and then it's seen that everything just as it is exactly what it is, which is unknowable by conceptual mind, but conceptual mind can arise as a tool and try to know it. So we can talk. These apparent beings, these apparent separate beings can communicate with each other and have this dance of life perfectly orchestrated by the whole thing, the orchestration. And there's plenty of room in this dance for atheism or God or any belief you want can arise. Any experience is welcome, and it doesn't stick. It falls away, and the next thing happens, and the next thing happens. And that disillusionment happens again and again and again. Anytime something sticks, anytime there's a position, that illusion can fall, and it's a gift. It hurts because when our cherished beliefs are challenged, humans are wired personality-wise, conditioning-wise, genetically, tribally, to defend that position almost to the death. Look at human history. That's what we do. We defend our beliefs. Look at your behavior on social media. You defend your beliefs. Trump this, Trump that, Biden this, Biden that, Kamala this, all the shit that we do. And it's all provisional. It's all a dance. It's all an appearance. So you can hold it. You can hold a belief. You can hold a position. But something happens as disillusionment accelerates and more disillusion. Like, am I really a father and a husband and a spouse? Yeah, as a projection, as a societal role. But that can dissolve, and then you're in the unknown. Then you look at your daughter and you don't know what you're looking at. Has no belonging to you, just has this radiant whatness. Just a kind of sense of awe and gratitude arises for nothing. It's absolutely unspeakably crazy, beautiful, perplexing, scary. And that's another level of disillusionment. So it's funny, even the word disillusionment has this negative connotation, but it's actually one of the most beautiful gifts is when illusion dissolves. Now you can remember back in the Matrix, when Neo is first disillusioned, he's in the Matrix, but he's like, this isn't right. This feels wrong to me. And his sense of like being a worker drone as a programming company, he knows something's wrong, and that's a kind of disillusionment that's happening. But then Morpheus comes and rips him out of the Matrix and says, you know what? You don't even know what disillusionment is. Wait till you see this. Pulls him out. He wakes up in the pod. And then he's told everything you thought was real was actually just a belief. It was just a projection of mind that was fed to you. Here's what's real. And how destabilizing that was for him, right? And even that reality isn't quite real. So there's further layers of disillusionment that happen over the movies. But then you look at Cypher, the bad guy in the first Matrix movie, and he goes to the agent and says, I never should have been disillusioned. It was traumatic. This reality is not what I want. I want the illusion back. I want you to put me back in the Matrix, make me powerful, give me a bunch of steak and money, make me an actor or somebody powerful. And that's a natural movement when the painful aspect of disillusionment, the ego destabilizing aspect is felt. It's like, it feels like a kind of death. And in spiritual ego, it's even worse, because when you tell someone, you know what, now you're not really even consciousness, or that guru that you've been following, that teacher that you've been following misbehaves in all these ways, or is telling you stuff like as an authority, and that experience, that unfolding is not necessarily universal. It's not true for you, but you're holding it as something that you're trying to attain, and it's causing you suffering. So when that falls away, that can be very painful, because that identity starts to relax and fall away. And now this is not just spirituality. It's true of everything in our life. As we reach middle age, we're disillusioned of so many beliefs and ideas that we thought were so real when we were young. Remember, don't trust anyone over 30, right? Because man, no, it's like this. Those guys don't know what they're talking about. Then you get to 30 in your 30s, and you're like, oh man, actually, I don't know if I was right about that. Then you get to 50 like I am, and you're like, I don't think anything's true. I don't think we can know anything. Like, the best we can do in healthcare is dance as part of the orchestration with the best knowledge that we have, using the tools and the awareness that we have. And it's so easy to discount. It's so easy to say all of Western medicine is mechanistic and reductionist, and ultimately is wrong and causes harm. And so then you have, like, people that are ascendant now that are saying, no, actually, so we were wrong about vaccines. They're actually harmful in this way, and we ought to just be focusing on diet and spirituality and all this other stuff, and discount all the science that actually does work. And it's like, well, isn't that just another position that ultimately is going to lend itself to the same disillusionment that got you to that position in the first place, if you're open? The problem is, I think most people entrench. Their ego comes back and it defends. And unless we, in a sense, attune to disillusionment, unless we lean into it and realize that everything is a mind projection, all of this, so we can kind of choose in each moment what works. What works for us now may not need to work for us 10 minutes from now, 10 years from now. It can fall away, and we can hold the next thing. It's a fluidity. What I used to call the alt middle, being able to see and inhabit different views, that becomes naturally fluid when you realize that all views are provisional. They're all constructed. Some are helpful at the moment, so we go with that. We don't hold, we don't fight, unless fighting is something that arises as necessary in that moment. We generally don't fight for them, because we realize the conceptual mind can't really know anything real. It's all provisional. So then where are we left? With the ultimate disillusionment. And if there's only one part of this video that you pay attention to, I hope it's this one. The ultimate disillusionment is the dropping away of both the mind that could make anything of anything, and the sense that we're the body, and the sense that we're anything. And then just the dance of this moment happening completely without any doer, in the radiant emptiness of this, completely unknowable, absolutely helpless, totally surrendered, and fundamentally perfect, beyond illusion and non-illusion, beyond self and non-self, beyond doer and non-doer, free will and no free will, beyond all conceptions of this and that. Is this. And that, my friends, is the freedom that lies on the other side of disillusionment. Thanks for listening. Smash that like button, subscribe, review this podcast on iTunes or your favorite platform to spread the word. Every word I just said was conditioned nonsense, and it's perfect. All right, guys, I love you. Peace. We out.